I mean, the problem with young people nowadays is people aren't encouraged to read. You go to university and like people don't even read books anymore. People are encouraged to read like essays or excerpts, but not actual books. So it's really, really important to read books. The greatest act of rebellion that you can do in today's world, okay, is to reclaim your attention. It really is, because the way that they keep control over you is by monopolizing your attention, right? By constantly feeding you distractions after distractions. So the greatest act of rebellion you can do is to sit by yourself, solitary, read a book for hours and hours, and just ignore the world and reclaim your attention, reclaim your mind.
And you said that I saw your video about growing up in Toronto and getting bullied, and obviously I can relate. I mean, I probably don't look as Asian now, but I grew up super, I got some of the same things, and so did my mother. And so when you were alienated and reading these books, what was the most transformative literature that you found?
When I was young, I read a lot. In the first stage, I was a huge fan of Isaac Asimov because I was really into science fiction, and I just loved the way that he looked at the world from a macro perspective. So he was not a great writer, but he had a very vivid imagination, and I really appreciated that. And so reading Isaac Asimov just really helped to expand my imagination. For the longest time, I was a huge fan of Ayn Rand, The Fountainhead, and Atlas Shrugged, because I also believed in individualism. I also believed I was a persecuted genius who would one day show the world that I was right. So as a teenager, I was really into Ayn Rand. And then I got into John Steinbeck a lot because I was really into his stories. So I've been through different phases. I was also a really avid comic book fan. Okay, so I love the X-Men. When I was young, I read the X-Men all the time. They're my favorite characters because the world of the X-Men seemed much more real than like the world of Spider-Man or the Avengers, right? Because the Spider-Man, Avengers, it's pretty simple good versus evil world. Whereas X-Men, there's actually a lot of more ambiguity. Like, is Magneto a really good person or a bad person, right? Because Magneto is trying to save his people. And Magneto is being realistic about the intentions of human beings. Like if we just trust human beings, they're gonna come kill all of us, right? Mm-hmm. So I was really into X-Men comics for a long time. Yeah.
What sort of information and books would you recommend people like us read?
So what I recommend is to read novels, long form novels, because if you read long form novels, they build a universe, and you go into this universe, and you're really able to expand your imagination. You're really able to expand your empathy. So, to read, you go to university, and like people don't even read books anymore. People are encouraged to read like essays or excerpts, but not actual books. So it's really, really important to read books. And so certain authors that I would recommend just to get started because they're so much fun. Okay. I love James Ellroy. I'm not sure if you've read James Ellroy, but LA Confidential, he's so much fun. So James Ellroy, Ellroy. Okay, so I recommend him. I recommend John le Carré, who is a spy author. I recommend Anna Maxted, Maxted, because she writes romance novels. But I recommend science fiction. Some good science fiction is John Wyndham. Wyndham. He's a lot of fun. But like the greatest act of rebellion that you can do in today's world, okay, is to reclaim your attention. It really is. Because the way that they keep control over you is by monopolizing your attention, right? By constantly feeding you distractions after distractions. So the greatest act of rebellion you can do is to sit by yourself, solitary, read a book for hours and hours, and just ignore the world and reclaim your attention, reclaim your mind. And so, I mean, just get into reading. I mean, and I started reading books because I started reading comic books, but then I started to upgrade myself over time. So I teach the Iliad, I teach the Divine Comedy. These are the great books I think everyone should read. But read them when you're ready, right? So yeah.
Divine Comedy. I remember you wrote that. That was Don Ibn Rashid. Oh, that was by somebody in the Islamic Empire, right? Or he influenced Dante's Divine Comedy, Ibn Rashid.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
I remember.
Yeah.
And yeah, what about I'm a big fan of Ernest Hemingway. He has a lot of novels.
Yeah.
You're a fan?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a huge fan, but Ernest Hemingway, he's hard to read. You actually have to like sit down and close read his works.
Yeah.
His best work, of course, is The Sun Also Rises.
Yep, that's the best one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, you have to be a very good reader to read like Ernest Hemingway. Whereas like if you just want to start out, then I would just say get in the habit of sitting down for like hours and hours and just focus on a book.
Yeah, Hemingway's difficult because he doesn't spell it out for you, which I appreciate. I like when authors, like he wrote a short story about a woman who had to get an abortion, but at no point in the short story did it mention it. And The Sun Also Rises, I'll just give it away. In World War I, the main character, the protagonist, he has an injury where he can't have sex because a grenade got rid of his balls. And so like that, that impotence affects all of his relationships and all of his conversations.
Yeah.
So that type of that's what I'm, but yeah, it takes a lot of energy to pay attention to. So you think a lot of people they find that, like Andrew Tate was saying, that reading is gay and that you shouldn't pay attention to it, that it's a waste of time. You disagree?
Okay. Yeah. I think reading is fundamental to being human.
Right.
And again, I mean, like I don't exaggerate, but like if there's one thing that you can do to rebel against the system, to reclaim your own individuality, it's by reading. Okay.
Especially
because what reading is.
Good. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean like it's a mirror into yourself and into the world. Okay. I mean like it's also a light where you read. You're in connection with the author. You're in connection with the work, and you are enhancing your own individuality. You're shining your individuality onto the world because when you read, it's your own interpretation, right? Mm-hmm. Reading a book, a really good book, is a portal into the divine.
Right. So, have you read any of the Quran?
I've read bad translations, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I've read bad translation, but they say the problem is you have to read the Quran in Arabic. So you have to like learn Arabic first.
Yeah. You don't have to, but the translated versions, to understand it completely, you have to understand original Arabic, which is difficult. And you've read the Bible as well. A lot of your lectures quote the Bible, especially the Old Testament.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And I remember you said that you found it schizophrenic, and what was your interpretation of the Bible?
Yeah, the problem with the Bible is that it's the most valuable real estate in the world, right? It's the most valuable mental real estate in the world. And so people are always competing and fighting over this real estate. And so there are lots of redactions. There's lots of changes to the Bible over the years. And it's almost impossible to figure out the true intention of the original writer, okay? But there are certain parts of the Bible that's pure literature. And when it's pure literature, what I mean is that it has the divine flowing from it, okay? So if you go and read the book of Genesis, that's divine. Mm-hmm. The book of Genesis, it's pure literature. And then the New Testament, like the Gospel of Mark is also pretty divine as well, but especially Genesis.
Mm-hmm. So why do you think we're here?
We're here because we want to be here. We're here because we want to experience the universe for its infinite, eternal possibilities. And so we're here to exercise our free will. Because it's only through free will can you actually expand the creativity of the universe, okay? So, I teach this when I teach Divine Comedy. But the difference between God and the human, even though we have God in us, is that humans can make mistakes. Humans can die. Humans can feel pain. God cannot. And therefore, we humans have an imagination. Because imagination comes from pain, from suffering, from making mistakes. And so, for our creativity, we are expanding God. Okay, so God is eternal, but it's also infinite. So it's always expanding. And for our creativity, for the practice of our imagination, we're expanding the possibilities of God, and we're bringing joy and light and love to the universe. So we're here to imagine things. We're here to love each other. So what I teach is this: the grand secret of the universe is love is the unifying force of the universe, right? When you love someone, you're connected to God, you're connected to everyone else. The imagination is the animating force of the universe. So when you imagine, okay, when you imagine new possibilities, when you tell stories, when you teach, you are making the universe much more alive. You're expanding the possibilities of the universe. So we're here for two reasons: to love, to find someone to love, and to love that person deeply and unconditionally, like Dante loved Beatrice, right? And to imagine things, to teach, to create, to learn.
Did you find most of this analysis through your own experience, or who told you this?
The divine, okay? Because when you actually read the Divine Comedy, you have absolutely no idea. You have absolutely no idea what's going on, okay? I mean, I spent like 6 months on that stupid thing, and I had no idea what was going on. And I went on YouTube and I looked at every single lecture I could find on Dante, and there's quite a few. Okay, so it made no sense to me what they were saying. Okay, and then I just had a dream. I just woke up and it said, "Oh, love." Okay, and not only that, but it said, "Go to this section." And I went to the section and I read it and I thought, "Oh my God, I'm starting to get it." Okay, it's starting to reveal itself to me. Okay, so it's the universe communicating with me so that I can understand the Divine Comedy, so that I can communicate with others as well. And like that's a great secret that these elites understand. Like in school, we're taught that it's all just material and it's all just process. So if you want to write an essay, just follow this work process and you'll write a great essay. And you know what? No author, no writer in the world has ever followed this stupid process of doing research, forming a thesis, create evidence, do the structure, do the outline, edit it, blah blah, and now you have an essay. Okay, that's what they teach you in school because that's what's convenient to teach you. But if you look at every single genius, if you look at every person who's creative, it's all through imagination. It's all through inspiration. It's like this: you woke up one day and you have this compulsion to write something or draw something. Okay, and you can't help yourself. And you're completely focused on the moment because you are being possessed by a certain entity that a muse or an angel or God. Okay, so that's something that the elite understand, right? Why do they practice child sacrifice? Why do they practice cannibalism? Yeah. Because they're trying to be possessed by a greater force that allows them the imagination to control the world.
Yeah, Leslie Wexner, back in the 80s, they're finding an article where he said that he was possessed by a Jewish demon. Again, Leslie Wexner is the one who financed Jeffrey Epstein, so it's like that a demon. He's saying that he was possessed by a demon. It's like, and that demon's purpose was to latch on to others. And you had a great lecture about why they do the most evil things. And you said the most evil out there. It was a lecture about Palestine. The most evil thing you could do is to sacrifice a child, which we're now seeing in the Epstein files. And it's in order to attach to a realm. And so it's like you're almost spiritually connected to all the people that have done this in history. You're now within this realm.
That's right. You're actually in a certain part of the universe that gives you inspiration and intuition. That's right.
Yeah, I see. I can see the reflection that your kids are running around. So I don't want to hold you longer than. Oh, you froze. Was it the Zoom call, Professor Jiang? Wow, that was weird timing. Maybe he went to another realm. Is he fake freezing on me? No, he's not. There's no way. Oh, cool.
Can you repeat that?
Oh, okay. No, it's
Sorry, my.
Oh, okay. I was just asking if you were in a rush because I could see in the reflection that your children were running around. I don't want to. My internet got cut off, so I had to switch locations. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So again, switching away, we went pretty philosophical and over there. People were really trying to see. I haven't seen yet your lecture about crypto. And now that the Epstein files have been released, they're saying that Bitcoin is part of a greater conspiracy and is also controlled by the Rothschild. Oh, no, don't nod. Is that true?
Yes. Yes, that is correct. Yes. Yes. It is a national security strategy to So let's look at Bitcoin, okay? And the idea of Bitcoin is that it is an open ledger where you can secretly conduct all interactions, right? And so why Bitcoin is valuable is, first of all, it's a store of value. It's a store of wealth because it's rare. And second is that it is anonymous, right? So like you're a drug dealer and you can use Bitcoin, right? So who does this benefit? It benefits the CIA because CIA is the most notorious drug trafficker and human trafficker in the world. And so it allows them to conduct all these operations secretly. It also allows them to spy on rogue regimes like North Korea and the Iranians in order to access more information. And it makes perfect sense for the CIA to create this sort of thing. The other thing you need to ask is like, what's the capacity to create this thing, right? Because it can't be this random guy working in his basement for a number of years. Because why won't he take credit? Why won't he monetize this, right? So the agency in the United States that is very good at creating things like the internet, GPS, is DARPA, which is the think tank of the Pentagon, right? So it could be NSA, it could be CIA, it could be DARPA, like who knows? But it's deep state. If you just go into the history of Bitcoin, it's very suspicious.
So who do you think is the founder of Bitcoin? It's still anonymous, correct?
Yeah, I wouldn't know the individual, but it's probably NSA, CIA, DARPA. Yeah.
So, Professor Jiang, what am I supposed to invest my money in? Where could I? Where do I put the wealth that I've acquired? So, if fiat currency is controlled by the Federal Reserve, if it's controlled by the Rothschild central banking system, it's not actually real. Bitcoin, you're saying, is controlled by the CIA. If I buy real estate, it's going to be in America, which is a failing empire. If I buy, is it just gold? Is that the best?
Yeah, but then the question is like, where do you store this gold, right? And what are you going to use gold for? Yeah, you can have a lot of gold, but when the world goes to shit, right? I mean, like what's gold going to get you, right? So okay. Here's my theory. So there's something called the Allegory of the Cave by Plato. In the Allegory of the Cave, everyone is chained to the floor, right? And the neck is shackled, so you can't move around. You're just staring at a wall. Behind everyone is a fire. And then there are people, the power elite, that have puppets. And they project these puppets onto the wall. And so you're seeing a shadow world, okay? Like it's a movie projector. And people, because they don't know any other reality, they think that the shadow reality is the real reality, and they give it names, they imagine it to be true. And because they imagine it to be true, then it becomes true. And that's a perfect metaphor to describe the financial system that we live in today, right? Money, wealth, it's an illusion. It's just literally paper. But we imagine it to be true, and it focuses our attention, and we want more of it. And what we don't recognize is that what true wealth is our imagination. What true wealth is our connection with each other. Because when we get together, we can imagine anything that we want. We can create any site that we want, okay? So you think that your wealth is in these millions of dollars that you've made, like, doing live streaming. No, it's not. The true wealth that you have is your imagination, your knowledge that you've accumulated over years of study. Your true wealth is in your influence. Your true wealth is in the community that you built online. And that will carry you anywhere you go in the world, okay? If it's a new world, guess what? If there's no internet, guess what? You do lectures, you go teach, you go write stories, right? That's your true wealth.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, I was banned everywhere over 3 years ago. I was wiped off of all social media. I can guess you could probably understand why. And
yeah.
When that happened, my parents were telling me to get a job, or they were starting to be extremely uncomfortable and panic. But I knew that I would be able to find a way to work it out, because I believed in the information that I'd gathered and my abilities in speaking and all that. I knew I would be able to carry with. And even then, if I get banned all over again, I've been reinstated on YouTube, still banned everywhere else. But if something happens, I know I'll be able to still find a way.
Exactly. And so you've got it made, okay? You'll be good. And that's your true wealth, your reputation, your influence, your imagination, okay? And so whatever happens in a society, as long as you are willing to make the adjustments, as long as you're willing to keep on learning and being creative and being a good person, you'll succeed wherever you go, and that's my philosophy.
That is reassuring. So real currency is through learning, and real knowledge is power. Or power is all from knowledge. Okay.
Right. Yeah, the imagination, the capacity to create new things by yourself, the capacity to draw people's attention, to focus people's attention. That's what the elite understand. Like these billions of dollars that they have, it's all play money. They understand that. It exists because people think it's real. But the moment people don't think it's real, it disappears on them. So like who cares,
Okay. Well, what about, so you have children and you're married, if I'm not mistaken. What about you have to provide for them? How do you quantify that?
Right. So if the world changes, okay, the imagination will carry you through, because let's just say for whatever reason, there's a solar flare, okay, and all electricity goes out. Now what you do? What you do is you go talk to your neighbor and says, hey, maybe we should work together. And your neighbor's like, yes, we should work together because the world has gone to shit, right? And then all the people get together, and somehow people intuitively figure out what they should be doing, right? And we know this because, I'm not sure if you've been in a blackout, right, where the traffic lights go off, right? Well, what happens? What happens is cars don't crash into each other. What happens is cars slow down, and then you have people who are just random strangers. They go to, the center, and they start to direct traffic. Okay, so the laws, we think that without laws, without authority, we can't exist. We can't function. But the truth of the matter is that no, if there are no laws, if there are no authority, if there are no experts telling us what to do, if there are no teachers, what we do is rely on our own intuition. What happens is we rely on our connections with each other, and that's what carries us through, right? So so I have absolutely complete confidence in myself. If one day, all governments were to disappear, if all technology were to disappear, somehow we humans will be resilient, we'll be imaginative, and we'll figure out a way out of this.
Right, and I've seen recently that in this generation specifically, you can see how they've tried to separate us from that knowledge. Previous generations, things like cooking, things like being able to do your laundry, being able to operate motorized vehicles, and that was the norm. But increasingly, people don't know how to cook, they don't know how to make their own food, and simple knowledge in order to survive has become scarce, which keeps the slave class more reliant upon the elites.
It's all intentional. It's power is the capacity to focus your attention. That's what power is, right? Right? If you're focused online all the time, you lose capacity to function for yourself. And that's what the AI surveillance state is. The AI surveillance state is to make you completely dependent on technology, to make you completely dependent on the AI system. Imagine a world in which you have a cell phone, but the cell phone is talking to you all the time, telling you how to think, what to do, reassuring you, right? That's what ChatGPT is. That's why they're spending billions of dollars on AI, because it's meant to be the new control mechanism once fiat currency goes to zero.
Okay, and yeah, this is ushering in so the new world. Do you believe the Antichrist is going to be AI generated?
Yes, it is AI. It's literally AI. That's what the Orthodox tradition teaches, right? The Russians believe this, where it is actually Western civilization that's the Antichrist. And what's the end point of Western civilization? The AI surveillance state, Pax Judaica.